Friends has asked me why I say Om Tat Sat in the beginning and what is the meaning of that, though it is out of context. Of course, we have to invoke anything with a prayer, and it should not be too long and long enough to disturb and grab away much of the time of the deliberations. So, in the Bhagavad Gita, Om Tat Saditi Nirdeshyam, like that, Krishna says, the highest truth is addressed as Om Tat Sat. That is the highest truth. And Om is supposed to be the most auspicious sound which emerged from the mouth of the highest truth, the Almighty Brahman, Atha and Om. And so in the Bhagavad Gita it is said so. And there safely it is not deliberately expressing any god or goddess of specified form. And so it is the most convenient way. It's short and sweet. And thus I started with that. Nothing more specific about that. That is truth. Means this is also truth. Everything is truth. That it means. And one more question from Mr. Prabhat. Please explain the creation of universe as per Hindu thought. I don't want to ponder much over that. We have many theories of creation. Many theories of cosmos are there. Lot of work has been done in the area of cosmology. But how far it is in tune with the modern scientific thought over that? For scientific thoughts on the creation of universe is also something more nearer to fiction. Not much better as such. There are theories and theories on that. However, we have many theories in the Puranas. They are very well explained, and every system of philosophy tries to give its own theory of creation. For yesterday I told any philosophy has to address 5 questions. Of them one is the world around us. For that naturally we need the beginning of that and the end of that. That sense it is the expression of the highest truth, like that it is said, and it is the creation and it is the appearance, like that many theories have been told, but vaguely equating them with the particle, field and wave theory as parallels. World is created, something like a potter creating a pot, and then world is expression of Lord, something like a serpent opening its food, and then ultimately water appearing as wave or whirl. Like that we have many theories, Arambhavada, Parinamavada and Vivartavada. These are the 3 main theories behind creation. Ultimately what Sanatana Dharma says is creation is eternal and it is in our mind. When our mind ceases to exist, there is no creation. Only when we have an awareness of the existence of the other, that is the world, then it is created. When we are withdrawn from that, there is no more creation. Shankara in one of his commentaries says clearly, any theory of universe is only a convenient answer, that's all, nothing more than that. As bones are thrown to a barking dog, so people who are very much upon the theories of creation, who are very much worked upon the concept of creation and other things, for that many theories are propounded. Absolutely speaking, no theory is complete. They are all temporal, they are all relative. That's how. But in the Puranas, especially following the Sankhyan pattern, tuned by the Vedantic vision, we have the whole creation came from consciousness. And consciousness revealed itself as the animate and inanimate world. From Avyakta, Mahat, Ahankara, Tanmatra, Panchabhuta, like that we have. It's a very elaborate process. I don't think we have time enough to go through that. People who are interested, they can refer to Vishnu Purana. It's one of the finest Puranas available. There we have the theory of creation according to Hindu mythology and philosophy. there we can as well understand. I think the five features that distinguish the Puranas, one among them is connected with cosmology. When I take up Puranas in the Ashtadasha Vidyasthanas, I will be pondering over in a shorter detail, of course. How Vedic texts survived 8,000 or more years, which system institution supported it? Vikram, it's a very interesting question. I think it's a phenomenon by itself. One thing is that devotion, dedication, faith, conviction, positive way we are saying, lethargy, priestcraft, oppression of the poorer class, and trying to keep the rest of the people in ignorance, and regression. Like that, there are so many negative things which are also applied and attributed to that. Whatever may be the reason, however, but they are preserved. The positive features behind that, they are more important, I still feel. One is enormous faith, and having realized the value at least a few people. And of course, faith had some fear psychosis also. If one syllable, one utterance is mistaken, and if it is wrongly spelt, 7 generations behind and 7 generations after him, they fall into the deeps of hell. And nobody should interpolate, or nobody should throw any of their thoughts, any of their writings into the Vedas like that. In spite of them, in spite of all these things, here and there we find some additions, some stray additions here and there, especially in the name of Upanishads we have that, and in the name of Khila Suktas. But we should appreciate our tradition. In the name of Khila, we have clearly distinguished that they are not the original portions of the Veda. For example, the well-known Shri Sukta is a Khila Sukta. It is not found in the basic texts of Rig Veda. And also, in the Shri Sukta, we have two layers. After 16 mantras, we have several mantras. For example, Sarasijanayane, Sarojahaste, and Lakshmim Kshira Samudra Rajataniyam. They are completely unvedic. Their language, their meter, everything is different. So the tradition has recognized that. In spite of all that, when compared with the extrapolations and interpolations which have been done in Puranas, in the Smritis, in the Agamas, and in many of such writings, Vedas have been preserved very well intact. And it is heard that when Max Muller wanted to publish his edition of Rig Veda, he collected different manuscripts from various parts of India, and he had never visited India. He collected, only one swara had a deviation. Apart from that, the whole of Rig Veda Samhita, containing 1028 hymns and 10,555 or so, or 52 mantras, riks, preserved intact without a singular textual variation or change of word order, any such thing. In that sense, it is a wonderful one. And that's why David Frawley, in one of his writings, he has said, Egyptians try to find eternity through their pyramids, and Assyrians through their hanging gardens of Babylonia. Like that, every civilization wanted to prove eternity by aiming at all these things. But Indians try to attain eternity by using the most volatile material, the sound, which vanishes in air, and even today that is remaining intact. I think it's a wonderful tribute. Just please advise a literary work which critically analyzes the life of Krishna. I have read Bankim Chandra Chatterjee's work. Its Radha Krishna concept of worship is correct, for Radha is said to be the wife of Vrishabhanu in Brahmavivarta Purana, Sri Arvind. Of course, Bankim Chandra's work is perhaps the first and one of the finest attempts from the Indian viewpoint of understanding Krishna in a critical way. Even today, the work is very, very beautiful and it's very informative and insightful. Added to this, one can refer to other work of Suktankar on the meaning of the Mahabharata. I had mentioned that earlier. Though there is a brief account of Krishna, in the backdrop of Mahabharata we can understand, because Mahabharata's personification is Krishna. In that sense, Suktankar's work is very beautiful. And here and there, few lines of Rajneesh's book on Krishna. It's a bulky book of 1,000 pages, only 2 to 3 pages of useful information. The rest is dry, boring, jarring, repetition and repetition and repetition. Nothing more than that. Few points are really good there. And then DVG has written in Kannada very beautifully about Krishna, one book itself, Sri Krishna Parikshanam. And he has contributed very good foreword to the Kannada translation of Bankim Chandra Chatterjee's Sri Krishna Charit, done by Vyasarao, grandfather of our Dr. N.S. Rajaram. That article is also very good. And then we have one English writing by Bharati Krishna Tirtha of Vedic mathematics fame on Krishna. It's also very good. And then we have Professor S.K. Ramchandra Rao's one Kannada book, Sri Krishna and Vyaktitva. It's a very insightful and holistic approach towards understanding Krishna. He traces so many sources. Apart from that, we have in hundreds and thousands of research papers and articles here and there in English, of course. Information on Krishna is available. But please don't take any of the writings of ISKCON as valid proof and writing to understand Krishna. If at all any modern institution, spiritual institution has done greatest disservice to Indian tradition and textual understanding, that is ISKCON. It is the worst possible sort of hegemony, intellectual bankruptcy and hypocrisy of the highest order, textual tampering, ignorance of the worst order. All these things can be seen in the publications of ISKCON, and it is nothing but a Hindu version of Islam and Christianity in bigotry and religious hatred. I spare no words to criticize ISKCON's attitude, starting from Bhaktivedanta Prabhupada to all the Tom, Dick and Harry who are ignorant, idiot, arrogant and whatnot. To quote Rajneesh, ISKCON is nothing but bunch of idiots, because they have destroyed the very personality of Krishna. They have made him very mean. And even one should not harvest so much of religious bigotry and hatred among various sects and trying to prove cheap disparity between gods and goddesses and all has been done. And it is all medieval meanness, which is worst of its kind. I think those who follow ISKCON and try to look at some light or enlightenment from ISKCON, I don't even have pity for them. They are punished enough. Some of the writings, publications by Ramakrishna Mission, Chinmaya Mission, they are really good. Krishna's character, if it is understood very well, I think India and India's future, past, everything will be understood well. Now coming to today's discussions. Yesterday I was telling about the Ashtadashi Vidyasthanas, and I was touching Itihasa, Purana, and I told something regarding Mahabharata and Ramayana. I'll be devoting even more time for that. We shall go to Puranas. I told about the definition of Purana, Puranam, Panchalakshanam, and Puranavam iti Puranam, like that. Even in the Vedic scriptures, we find references to Puranas. Generally, there is a misnomer that Puranas are of very, very later development, and they are products of the late Gupta period, like that. No, it is not fair enough. Even in the Atharvaveda, in the Samavedic Upanishads like Chandogya Upanishad, which is very old even from the viewpoint of the modern scholars. And in many Brahmanas, we have references to Puranas. In Atharvaveda, we have clear reference in the Samhita itself, Purana. And earlier, Purana was one volume, Purana Samhita. And that is also mentioned in the Puranas. Vedavyasa's father, Parashara, was the person who framed this Purana Samhita. And later, Vyasa taught that to his students, and the teaching notes or methodology perhaps it transformed into 18 forms, and that became 18 Puranas. That's how people like Gopinath Kaviraj and then Baladev Upadhyaya and even Vidwan Ranganath Sharma and others, they opine. And these scholars, these traditional scholars, having critical approach towards our tradition, their viewpoint has a greater degree of validation. So Purana, I told about the nature, it's something like Wikipedia. And when anything becomes very, very popular, it will have very many variations in textual presentations. It's very natural. For that matter, I shall take one analogy from the Vedic corpus itself. There are many shakhas of the Veda Samhitas. Rigveda is supposed to have 21 shakhas, and Yajurveda is supposed to have 101 shakhas, and Samaveda is supposed to have 1000 shakhas, and Atharvaveda 9, like that. Eka Vimshati is 21 Rigveda, and then Ekashatam Advaryu Shakha, Sahasravartma Samavedaha, Navadha Atharvanaha, like that. Patanjali in the Mahabhashya quotes. But today we don't have those many shakhas, only few are available. What it means, Samaveda having 1000 shakhas, why Samaveda had so much, while the base of it, Rigveda, has only 21? Because Sama is essentially musical in nature. A song will be sung so differently. In spite of any amount of fidelity, musical structure is very vague when compared with the literary structure. Especially when there was no possibility for recording and other things, musical structure will be very different. Even to give a concrete example, Tyagaraja's compositions, though their lyrics, Matu, as we call from the technical term Matu, the lyrics, they are one and the same. The Dhatu, the musical feature of that, has many variations. Especially predominant 3 variations are there, 3 schools of Dhatu, the musical features are present. It's because of the volatile nature and even more abstract nature of the music as such. And Samavedan goes by that. Similarly, music is very popular, and that's why we don't have that much of textual variation with reference to the compositions of Muthuswami Dikshita or Swati Tirunal or Shamashastri. It's only with Tyagaraja, because Tyagaraja is very, very popular, justly popular. Likewise, Puranas are very popular. They are common man's texts. They are ever-growing texts. And here I have to mention that often and often the so-called champions for the cause of downtrodden and deprived people, they say that Sanskrit tradition has no folk. It has no folklore. Folklore tradition is completely ignored. But they don't know, or they don't want to know, that the whole Vedic text tradition itself is folkish in nature. And our Puranas are the real folk literature of Sanskrit. You have to refer to Puranas and realize this. I have written several articles also on that. For in folk, we have oral tradition. So many textual variations are present. So is the Veda, and so are the Puranas. In the Puranas, we have so many streams of learning coming together, and the amalgamation can as well be realized. Why I am saying these things? Puranas are very open in nature. And that's why we have so many contradicting features. And Hinduism, by its nature itself, Sanatana Dharma, is very much open to so many things. It's never a watertight compartment. Though we make such certain compartments at times, we are not in essence. And that's why it's very difficult to define Sanatana Dharma and define a book and restrict a text and a tradition. We have so many variations. Starting from the rituals we have. For example, in the manuals of Yajna, they are the Shrauta Sutras. So many diverging opinions are there. Atiratre Shodashanam Grinhati. While performing the Atiratra Yaga, Shodashi is one sort of vessel that has to be used. In the very line, next line itself, it is said, Natiratre Shodashanam Grinhati. No Shodashi vessel is used in the Atiratra Yajna. What is the reason for this? At different places, we have different practices. Both are recorded there. And one practice being observed in many ways in different regions. The same one Yugadi or Vasanta Pratipat is performed in so many ways in different parts of India. The Sauramana Yugadi is there, Chandramana Yugadi is there, and then we have the Baisakhi is there, Gudi Padwa is there, like that, so many are there. What that indicates, we have different traditions, but they are essentially one in spirit. And the practices are always accommodated. It's clearly said, Madhusudana Saraswati in the Prasthanatraya says, Nachaite Munayo Bhrantaha. The seers are not confused. Neither they are confused nor they want to confuse others. They have recognized the wider variety and so they have accommodated. And that is one of the reasons for diverging opinions in the Puranas. And also, whoever thought it is good for the people, he started interpolating and propagated. There are some problems here. There is so much of difficulty in understanding Sanatana Dharma. This morning I was talking to my friend Prasanna Ganapati about how the lectures are going on and how they are being received and where they have discrepancies and confusions and all. He's told, in the first lecture many people had difficulty because it is very difficult to grasp and present Sanatana Dharma in one nutshell. It's something like the human mind. How to understand human mind? How to understand the world? It is so difficult. We don't know so many things are happening around us. In the deeps of the seas, 2 or 3 miles below the sea level, we have vegetation, we have animals, and their sun's rays they cannot penetrate. At that deep, wonderful colors are there. Where there is no light, there no color can as well be comprehended. Why the colors are being created, we don't know. There are many such things. Last night I was reading some book on birds and their migration. And some birds from the Arctic region, they come to South India, the Rangantittu and Kokkarabellur, like those places, and they traverse almost 19,000 kilometers of distance. They go to various places. They are not in search of food. They don't have any dearth for food. They are not even coming for special breeding. They do have. In the Arctic region also, in that cold climate, they lay the eggs and they cover that with snow, and that's how they protect and they get warmth because of that, and the eggs are hatched and the birds fly. When all this is happening, why they are wandering? Do they want to travel like us to different places of tourist importance? We don't know why they are. Even today, scientists are unable to know why they are migrating like that. In every summer season, from the Eastern Europe, many birds they come. There are many such features. We don't know what is the reason behind that. And so many things which are anomaly in creation itself. We know birds care so much for their children, for the young birds, for the progeny, and they teach how to fly and all that. But in the higher evolution, birds do build the nests. Monkeys, they don't build nests. They have hands, but they don't build. They are very near to us, but they have lost the skill which the birds had. The class Aves is a lower rank in the evolution, but the class Mammalia is higher. Why? We don't know. There are many such things. And even in the plant kingdom, we have many such anomaly. Like that is Sanatana Dharma. It is very, very difficult to understand and comprehend from one viewpoint. At the same time, it is very easy also because whatever we understand will be the right thing. Because so much of freedom is provided. You go to a big mall, whatever you want, you fetch and you come out. You are not confused by the variety in the big mall. If you are confused, it's your problem, not the problem of the mall. So is Sanatana Dharma. And that's why the Purana should also be seen from that angle. They provide so many things. They may not be of any worth now, but they did had some impact and they did serve something. Today, we may not have that much of belief in traditional pilgrimage, but every Purana has so much to say about pilgrimage. Something like an encyclopedia of pilgrimage and tourism is Skanda Purana. And most of the Puranas like the Padma, the Brahmavivarta, then the Kurma, and then the Shiva, and then the Linga, and then the Brahmavivarta, such Puranas, they deal with so many kshetras and so many tirthas, so many parvatas. We may not be interested. After 500 years, the future people may not be interested in our places of tourism. Who knows? So we should not dismiss in ruthless ignorance that they are of no use, they were of no use to anybody at any time. So Puranas have to be taken with a compassionate look. At the same time, our tradition is critical also. For example, take Shankara. Clearly he says Shankara, all Puranas are Arthavadas. Arthavada means the spirit has to be taken not in verbatim. Like the story of Panchatantra. The crow spoke to a mouse means in which language do crows have tongue, or the dental structure, or the vocal cords which are resembling the humans? In which language they spoke, and which was the style, which slang? No questions. If communication had happened, this would be that. So the spirit of it has to be taken. The Arthavada means the same thing. And Shankara goes even to the extent of saying that except the Brahma Pratipadaka Vakyas, means those statements, very few in number, the bulk is very few, very little. Except the Brahma Pratipadaka Vakyas means except those which describe the highest experience of absolute existence, awareness and bliss, the rest is Arthavada. All about Indra, Varuna, Parjanya are all about sacrifices, all about social and other orders, they are all Arthavadas. Means they are Purusha Tantras. They change from place to place, time to time, and so one need not be disturbed too much. So is the Puranas. In the Puranas also, 90% of that has to be taken as Arthavada. Only the spirit has to be taken correctly. If not, what happens? Trying to prove every point of Puranas becomes hilarious. When the people who are trying to interpret like that, if they are in position, it becomes very offensive. It will be very, very dangerous also. For example, I shall tell you, I am not against any person. Wherever I find that there is an amount of pertinence, I just accept it. If my logic is proved wrong logically, I will be very happy to receive an improvised version of logic, which is leading more towards truth. The stories of Ramayana and Mahabharata, they have so many discrepancies here and there. For example, in Ramayana, the age of Rama and Sita, it's a very big issue to our medieval commentators. At what age Rama got married Sita? Do we want to celebrate their marriage anniversary? For that we should know the date, not the year. Year is not important. And at one place, Valmiki has said something. At some other place, through Sita, he says something. Sita conversing with Ravana, she says something in the Aranya Kanda. In Balakanda, there is some other thing. And nothing is very, very clear and very vague. And it lends lot of interpretations. And because of that, the commentators are hell-bound upon that and try to interpret in a very, very filthy manner. But is it important? It has very little importance when compared to the impact of Ramayana and what for it is meant. And trying to adhere to the letter, this has happened, but not to the spirit. So also, Mahabharata, who is the main character, who is the subordinate character, and all that. Kaikeyi, such a nice woman, why she became something completely irreconcilable, and how she manipulated that, no reason. For that, the medieval period, in the medieval period, scholars and acharyas, they broke their head, and immediately they arrived at one thing. Kaikeyi had Asura Vesha. You just take Madhvacharya's Mahabharata Tatparya Nirnaya. For any such discrepancy, the most likely answer is Asura Vesha Purva Shapa. Some sage or some god had cursed, and to follow that curse, and some demon or some evil force that eclipsed. It is, of course, it should not be laughed at. It is the interpretation at the level of Adhidaiva. At the level of mythology, the interpretation will be that's all. For example, in Kalidasa's Shakuntala, why Dushyanta forgot Shakuntala? Kalidasa says Durvasa cursed. He conveniently uses the belief which is very well prevalent in the society. But the difference between Kalidasa and Madhvacharya is Madhvacharya believes this as the truth. But Kalidasa, whether believed or not, we don't know. But he tries to explore the human aspects more. Because he is a poet, he is more interested in human nature. Having forgotten Shakuntala and then again realizing her memory, how Dushyanta felt and how was his lamenting, that is what explained in greater detail in whole of 6th act. But Madhvacharya's Mahabharata Tatparya Nirnaya says Kaikeyi had Asura Vesha, very good. And she drove away Rama to forest, and the whole calamity happened. But not once after coming out of Asura Vesha she repents. Means Madhvacharya's interest was more in theology, not in human feeling. That's why only to a believer Ramayana will be useful and important. Not to a non-believer. Only to a Hindu, especially who follows Madhvacharya, Ramayana and Mahabharata will be relevant. But Shakuntala, whether one believes in curse or not, it will become important because of the sustained and enduring human appeal. Like Homer's epics or Shakespeare's plays. Why Shakespeare is much better poet than Milton? Because Milton is adhering to religion. Adhering to religion is not wrong. But going by the letter is wrong. At the level of Adhyatmika, spirit, we transcend this, Adhidaiva. That's so in the Puranas we have lot of Adidaivika interpretations. That is one level of appeal, it is always there. But a non-believer, if he wants to get something, means he should try to go even deeper, even aside, and find out the sustained human interest. Then a question may come. Do we think that human beings are the centers of creation? Human being is the center of the whole existence. Why can't the other? Well, we have to take everything is center. For that we have to come to the spirit. For that we have to come to Chaitanya and Atma. But the problem is, Madhva is not for the unified consciousness, one consciousness. His darshana is nanatva. He is a realist. A realist cannot be theologist. He is both. And so we have this irreconcilable dichotomy. Such problems are there in our tradition. But that is not the core aspect of that. You would have seen already in these lectures, I am quoting more from Shankara. Not that I belong to a family which is supposed to follow Shankara. I see a lot of pertinence in Shankara, and wherever I don't see, I critically say it is not pertinent. For example, Shankara in his Brahmasutra Bhashya, while explaining the Apashudradhikarana, quotes Gautama Dharma Sutra and says a Shudra, when a Shudra should not hear or utter the Vedas. If so, his ears and mouths have to be filled with trapu and jatu, trapu jatubhyam purayet. With lac, molten lac and lead, his mouth and ears should be stuffed. And because of that, a Shudra should not be given Veda. And that's why to protect him from death, he should be kept away from the Veda. And that is the dictum of Dharma Shastra. And this has been very faithfully followed by Madhva and Ramanuja and all other acharyas, irrespective of their sects and beliefs. In keeping Shudras away from Veda, all the acharyas are one. There we have Advaita. I cannot accept that. Shankara is wrong. Everybody is wrong. But only one saving gesture in Shankara is, however, in spite of Vedas, even without Vedas, one can realize. Because we have Dharmavyada, Vidura and others who belong to the Shudra and other classes, they were Brahmajnanis. Through the Vedas, they may not, but without the Vedas also they can. Okay. This much is the saving grace. But here he is failed. Well, I can say very easily this, but Shankara could not because of the social structure, or Ramanuja for social, and so many reasons are their beliefs, whatever. But what I mean is, such problems are there, but they can as well be reconciled, clearly understood in the light of Vedic spirit, in the light of Sanatana Dharmic spirit, and that is also given by the tradition itself. In the Puranas, we have like that so many irreconcilable problems, shortcomings, blind ends are there. But the total benefit of the Puranas, even today, is pronounced. And we can understand how the past went on. More than being carried away by the opinions of others, we should look into it by ourselves. Well, coming back to the structure of Puranas, Puranam Panchalakshanam I told, Sargascha Pratisargascha Vamsho Manvantaranicha Vamshanu Kirtananchaiva Puranam Panchalakshanam. It is said so. Sarga is creation. Pratisarga, some scholars opine that as the deluge, and the others say the secondary creation after the primary one. Vamsha, the lineage of the rishis, lineage of the gods, lineage of the kings. Devarshi Raja Vamsha. Like the Rishi Vamsha of Bharadvaja, Rishi Vamsha of Angirasa, Rishi Vamsha of Bhrigu, Rishi Vamsha of Atri, Agastya, like that. And also the Raja Vamsha, the two great lineages, dynasties, one of solar and the other of lunar. And then in the lunar we have Yadu Vamsha, a branch of it. And there are many branches like the Haihai Vamsha, Vrishti Vamsha, Kukura, Andhaka, like that. And then we have the Deva Vamshas, the lineage of various gods. That is mixed with the lineage of kings and rishis. All coming from the Chaturmukha Brahma. And from Brahma, Nava Prajapatis, from the Prajapatis, Saptarshis, like that it goes on. So that is the Vamsha. And then Vamshanucharita, the achievements of the great men, great women in those dynasties and in that lineage, all the details of the stories. And then Manvantaranicha, the 14 Manus. Manu is supposed to be the first human being in existence after every deluge, every pralaya. From starting from Swayambhuva to the Savarnis, we have totally 14 in number, and now it is the 7th one, Vaivasvata Manu, like that it goes on. It's a wonderful mythical representation. None should take them in the literary sense, but it's very beautiful. If you understand Puranas from the poetic viewpoint, it will be very, very enjoyable. Ramayana and Mahabharata, for that matter, from the poetic enjoyment only we have to take. And we do have historical, yesterday I told about that. And here I have to emphasize one point, that is about the concept of Aharya Satta, the truth of embellishment. Unless we understand that, Indian culture cannot be appreciated. In Indian systems of philosophy, we have different levels of truth. One is the working truth in the mundane world, that is the Vyavaharika Satta. In all our business transactions, in all our day-to-day affairs, what we do. For example, sun rises in the east. It's a Vyavaharika Satta. It's not Paramarthika Satta. Paramarthika Satta, when we see from the space, there is nothing like eastern direction at all. But it's a very comfortable working truth. That is Vyavaharika Satta. And then Pratibhasika Satta means our dreams or the mirage or whatever we have optical paradoxes, they are all considered as Pratibhasika Satta. We know because of refraction, a coin immersed in a trough will be seen at a higher plane and it is seen bigger than its dimension. All that is appearance. And it can be dispelled then and there itself or after a few minutes. So that is Pratibhasika Satta, the truth of appearance. And then the highest truth is Paramarthika Satta, the absolute existence, awareness and bliss, as the Vedanta proclaims. And then these three truths are well prevalent in the Vedantic schools of thought, especially of Shankara and others. But they have missed one thing that is present in the Nayayika school, though they don't follow it much, but I think it is very important, and that is Aharya Satta or Akalpa Satta. Akalpa or Aharya in Sanskrit means embellishment, the truth of embellishment. Means willing suspicion of disbelief, as it happens in art. In the film it is said all the characters present in this film are fictitious and any resemblance is a strange coincidence, nothing more than that, like that we say. Something of that. It is not that, yet we accept it. That's how we enjoy literature, that's how we enjoy films, plays and others. And even we knowingly, it is not that we assume. That's how problem solving and all happens. Let the unknown be X or Y or Z, like that we assume. And this point, it shall be P or Q, something like that. This is how we do assume. We know it is not, and yet we believe. This is called willing suspicion of disbelief. So that is very, very important to understand Sanatana Dharma. To enjoy the creation as the poetry of the highest truth, Devasya Pasya Kavyam na Mamarana Jiryati, like that the Rik and the Atharvavedas say, this is poetry of the God and it has no old age and no death. To appreciate that, we do need that level of realization, that is of the embellishment, the truth of embellishment. Only by virtue of that, we can appreciate the things better. If not, there is always a fear, there is always a problem of over or under involvement. When we are watching a play, just for an example, we say it is play of Harishchandra. Harishchandra has sold his wife and now he is in the burial yard as a keeper and his wife has come and she has to be beheaded. And then do we rush to the dais and say, no Harishchandra, she is innocent. She has no such malice in her character. She has not killed that prince. It's all a concoction of Vishwamitra, like that. Do we go to the stage and scream? Or do we say that it's all bullshit, nonsense? He is neither Harishchandra, she is nor Chandramati. For that matter, she is not she. She is he, some XYZ next to my residence, and he is wearing the attire of the woman and playing the role of Chandramati. Do we become so aloof and say? We will not. We shed our tears but we are not over involving. This way of involving without involvement is the root cause of happiness. We nurture our children, we entertain them, and we get entertained by them. But at the same time, after they grow up, they will not turn to us. Some girl or some boy at the teens or after getting their job, they will become so important to our children, our siblings. So we become insignificant. Many parents would have felt that. I know many of my friends, they coming to me and saying that, you see, I taught everything, I gave everything. For 21 years, my daughter was my daughter. And now some Tom, Dick and Harry has come and she is no more ours. This always happens. And my friend's father used to say so. Before 25 years. ಅವಳ ಬಂದು ಮಂಕ್ ಬೂದಿ ಹೆರ್ಚಿಬಿಟ್ಲು ನೋಡಿಪ್ಪ ನೀನಾದರೂ ಹೇಳು ಲೈಕ್ ದಟ್. ದಿಸ್ ಈಸ್ what going to happen if we develop a sense of involving without involvement. We may attempt for an enjoyment of our own children abandoning us. Or else, can we not enjoy it as a tragedy film? Not as tragedy film, or a tragic novel, tragic play, something like that. So, this is the outlook of Jivan Mukta, a person liberated in the very body itself, in the very life itself. That is the approach of Sanatana Dharma. And this is the approach of art and poetry. Here I remember Professor M. Hiriyana's one statement. In modern days of reason and democracy, reason and equality to be more specific, says, art can replace religion in a much better manner. Because religion is rooted in faith. Art is rooted in believing with disbelief. We cannot reconcile belief and disbelief in the mundane world. But only in art we can reconcile, because we are feeling, we are experiencing better enjoyment there. In the world, belief and disbelief simultaneously, it may trigger out hypocrisy, but in art it is not. In the world also it will not, if we adhere to the highest truth and then at the relative level trying to assume the things as there. We know. See, we will not be disturbed very much when we know at the level of Paramartha, yes, this is the nature of human beings. If I am very shrewd and the same thing is reciprocated by some other person, yes, it's my shrewdness, it's making him reciprocate like that, means I will not be disturbed much. If I forget my shrewdness, then there is problem. This way of constantly changing the positions, trying to enter into his shoes and looking at my own self, that is done in art. And we know in art, we switch over from character to character. At sometimes we are the heroine, at some other times we are the comedians, at some other times we are the villain. Like that we try to move from character to character and watch. And that's how it happens. Like in the music it happens, sometimes we are in the Shadja Shruti and sometimes we are in the Madhyama Shruti. Like that we switch over from Shrutis to Shruti and then enjoy the music. That's how we have to do. For that, Puranas have to be seen from the viewpoint of poetry. That's the only solution, at least I know. The other way, at least for the age of reason and equality, it's very, very difficult, very, very difficult. For example, just see, there are some people in Udupi, even today they say that Kanakadasa never made the miracle of turning Krishna's idol from east to western direction and breaking the wall and then getting the darshan through the window. Including people like Bananjay Govindacharya and others, they say it's not the reality. But a pontiff like Pejawar Shri, he cannot say that. It's a social taboo if he says so. In today's Kannada Prabha, I have seen somebody saying that the Navagraha Kindi, instead of Kanakana Kindi, there are two windows. The outermost is supposed to be Kanakana Kindi, and the innermost in Sanctum Sanctorum is Kanakana Kindi, is Navagraha Kindi. And some people from the Kuruba community, perhaps, they are raising allegations that Kanakana Kindi is changed to Navagraha Kindi, and so there is oppression and like that. Immediately, Swamiji today itself has given paper statement. I am repeatedly saying it is Kanakana Kindi, both are Kanakana Kindis. Why this is called Navagraha Kindi? It's very bad, it is untrue, something like that. Means, we have to change. Pejavara Shri is not challenged by the scholars, and even the scholars are not challenged by Pejavara Shri because they are finding convenient path. It's very dangerous to be sectarian nowadays. Even Dvaita wants to be Advaitic. Because this is the age of democracy and equality. Nobody can say that you are not equal, you are lower. I told earlier itself, the problem of democracy is all are equal. And we agree that because there is a corollary that nobody is above me. Equality presupposes this. So this is the problem. Hence, we cannot go by the Adhidaivika interpretation as the absolute. And that has been done many times in the medieval period in Hindu texts. And no religion is an exception to that. For that matter, Sanatana Dharma has a great escape and truly a revealing passage of spirituality, of Adhyatmika in the truest sense. But in Islam, Christianity and other religions, we don't have that passage at all. So Puranas should be taken from that viewpoint. One may think I may be digressing too much on these issues because more than giving information, I am here more bothered about giving an approach to it. Give an approach, in spite of religion, Sanatana Dharma can exist. In spite of our beliefs, our texts can exist like that. We need that. And we can as well have a comfortable lung space for religion, spirituality, and social order, and whatever. So the Sarga, Pratisarga, Vamsha, Vamshanucharita, and Manvantara, the 5 features, they make a Purana. But there are even more beautiful things in Purana. For example, Puranas, I told that they are encyclopedic in nature and resemble something like modern Wikipedia. A Purana like Agni, a Purana like Vayu, a Purana like Garuda, and a Purana like Vishnu Dharmottara, it's supposed to be Upapurana. All are wonderful with respect to giving secular information, knowledge of positive world. For example, Agni Purana gives lot of information regarding poetry, prosody, meter, music, imagery, aesthetics, and then astronomy, dance, instruments, and many more. Vishnu Dharmottara gives wonderful information regarding painting, sculpture, iconography, poetry, music, and whatnot, and architecture, building materials like that. And Garuda Purana gives lot of information regarding medicine, treatment, herbs, and psychology. And works like Vayu Purana, they deal with lot of history also. And even Vishnu Purana deals with lot of history. And many Puranas deal with a lot regarding sacrifices, and then Shraddhas, and of course pilgrimage, and then charity. All Puranas invariably emphasize a lot on charity. Is it not good? Nowadays people say one should share and share and share, but without any motivation. Belief here comes to a great rescue. I will be blessed by God if I offer, if I part of something of mine. Like that, at least from that viewpoint, people may give. All our politicians, can they shell their money to different temples without such motivation? They cannot. At least for that purpose, they are shelling out their money. Even today, many people, just because of God and belief, they are giving charity. All this is in Puranas. And we have various festivals. For that matter, in the Dharmashastra works, later works on Dharmashastra like Nibandha Granthas, we have many references to festivals, and all the source is from Purana. A Purana like Bhavishya and Bhavishottara and Skanda, they have hundreds of festivals. If you just refer to the fourth volume of Kane's History of Dharmashastra, you find lot less than 700 festivals and vratas. One can perform really? Humanly, is it possible? One may question. But all the festivals are not for us. You can choose of your choice. But some major festival 10 to 12 are there. And practice is very, very essential for harboring and nurturing and preserving any tradition. Without practice, nothing comes to reality. Nothing will be saved. And here festivals play a very, very important, vital role. I wish I could give much more time to festivals, but this much is true. Most of the festival tradition has to be acknowledged to Puranas. Very many Puranas are there. They give many festivals. There are three levels. One is at the personal level and more meditation oriented, conviction oriented, steadfastness oriented, and trying to observe one's own self for that. At the highest personal level, observing that. And that's why there will be no pomp, luxury, and glory in that. It's highly internal in nature, and that is called vrata. And then at the family level, we perform that. Then it becomes parva, an event, a memorable event. And at the social level, it will have a very wide implications, not just of faith, spirit, philosophy, and religion. At the level of economy and culture and art also, it will have a pronounced effect, and that is called Utsava. Sava is the thing which is found in the yajnas. Somayagas are called Savas and Savanas. And it used to be a very wonderful social festival. Like that Utsava, that enjoyment and that merry mood and that community celebration which uplifts us, that is called Utsava. There are many such Utsavas. And we have all the groups of people, all the sects of the society, they getting involved in that, and each time one or the other community leading the rest, like that we have. For example, Upakarma is mainly oriented towards Brahmana. Brahmana mukhena anyavarnanam parva. Like that it is said. And we have the Navaratra. It is Kshatra festival. It is the festival led by the Kshatriyas. And Deepavali is the Vaishya festival led by the Vaishyas. And Sankranti is led by the Shudras. The rest follow. Like that we have. So the social order is also well maintained and brotherly feeling is fostered in the society. Like that we have many positive aspects in the Puranas. And every Purana will have certain regular features. Apart from Sarga, Pratisarga, Umisha, Manvantara, the stories of Ramayana, Mahabharata, they come. And we'll be having some variations also. For example, Sita is not abandoned. If at all abandoned, she'll come back to Rama. Means such poetic justices to Ramayana and Mahabharata are given. Our wishful thoughts. We don't want Rama and Sita get separated. We want their reunion. Such things are provided. For example, in Padma Purana's Patala Khanda, we have Sita coming back to Rama and living happily together. And also trying out the reasons. I told about Madhvacharya's Mahabharata Tatparnirnaya. It is not just his creation. In the Puranas are there. He has taken that. You see, from the Adi Daiva concept, Madhvacharya's contribution is really wonderful. But we should know that it is only the realm of belief. In the Puranas like Padma, Brahmavivarta and others, we do find, for example, there is no story of the laundryman making an allegation on the character of Sita in Ramayana. It's only the large populace of Ayodhya, the wide population making gossip in many cities, in many towns and villages, a whole mass hysteria like that, it went on. And so Rama took that decision. But in the Padma Purana, it is said it is the laundryman. Even in some other Puranas it is said so. But in some Puranas it is said he is not the real laundryman of Ayodhya, he is a demon. Younger brother of Shatakanta Ravana and sister of Dashakanta Ravana, Shurpanaka, they wanted to play this havoc so that they had to take revenge against their brother's death.